Ladies, what is the absolute worst way someone has tried flirting on you? When I was 15, a 13-year-old boy came up to me and offered to show me his rock collection. Then he asked if he could see my boobs. I politely declined the latter request, but the rock collection was pretty cool. They're called Minerals Marie. Minerals. A dude behind me in a gas station kept going on about that's the biggest butt I've seen. And you're a white girl. He asked everyone in the gas station if that wasn't the biggest booty you ever seen. I really did not know how to respond. Said with the flattest, most Finnish accent ever, I want to see your lips. No smile, no gestures, just a motionless stare. Well, he was Finnish. Expecting him to express emotion is a bit much. At a karaoke bar, I had just finished singing, and a drunk guy lurched over to me and said that was so good that I crap and pee myself 7 times. Terrible in a hilarious way. I am clearly German, and this guy at a Halloween party, dressed as Dr. Horrible and looking very much like NPH, approaches me and says, "Hey baby, you Aryan?" I responded with, "I suppose I am," and he said, "Wanna breed?" That's actually pretty funny. I was walking to class, and this guy comes up to me. We proceed to have this conversation. Creepy guy. "Hi, I've seen you around campus. You're very pretty." Me. Or, "Thanks, I'm name." Creepy guy. "I've seen you in the dining hall and walking into the math building and walking out of the math building and getting your hair cut and going into your dorm." Me. Walks off really quickly. He started so well. A 30-plus-year-old man started chatting my 18-year-old self up when I was working retail. He came up and put his hand on my knee. I was seated, and continued talking to me. The sad part is that some girls actually fall for it. I don't know. An age gap that big, especially when the girl is in her teens, just makes me cringe. Getting a drink at the bar when all of a sudden, an absurdly tall and extremely hammered albino man shoves his way in to say, "Hi, I'm from Kansas and I want to frick you so bad." My response? "I'd rather not be fricked badly. Thanks though." That's the response of a winner. I was grocery shopping and my basket contained white wine, cat litter and almond milk. Mr. Charming behind me in line tells me that I must be lonely to be buying only those items and that I can come over and make him dinner. He was very confused by my refusal. I would have commented on one obviously spoiled and curiously vegan cat. A cop once asked me out at a roadblock, sobriety checkpoint. Everything was going fine, as I hadn't been drinking at all. Cop: "So, when's the last time you had an alcoholic drink?" Me: "A few weeks ago maybe." Cop: "Well, would you like to go get one with me later on tonight?" So awkward. I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to do that. My lady friend and I went out to a restaurant one night and some guys had sent us drinks just as we sat down, before we had even removed our coats. Anyway, we sent them back without even really seeing what kind of drink it was, and some guy came over as we opened our menu and called us kind of mean and told us we were probably lesbians and it didn't matter, it was just water anyway. I was like, why would you send over water? The restaurant would have given us glasses anyway. TLDR. We're mean lesbians who hate water. TLDR. We're mean lesbians who hate water. You mean witches? Well, this is just about the best flirt attempts I've experienced, which says a lot about me. A 3-year-old invited me to his birthday party at Wendy's. He offered to buy me a Frosty. When his mom took his hand to lead him out of the store, he turned to my co-worker and I and said, "See you ladies later. That kid is going to have an irresponsible amount of game when he's older." A guy approached me and said, "Gary has bet me £50 I can't get a date to Nando's with you before the night's over." My response: tell him he's £50 richer so he owes me a drink. Sounds like a solid opener for Gary. A guy comes into my work a few times a week, and every time he uses a cheesy pickup line on me. The first few were overused, like "Did it hurt when you fell from heaven?" but the last one he told me was, "Are you the sad?" No. Why? Because baby, I'd do you for 3 hours and 45 minutes, with a break halfway through for snacks. The one that actually made me laugh was when he said, "Do you come here often?" I work there. Every single time. All he says is a stupid pickup line. It's actually kind of working. I'm guessing he knows they are stupid and is deliberately saying them because you've shown faint interest. Have you ever dated a black guy? Cause I've never dated an Asian girl. I was walking down the street when a black guy said this to me. Not even, hey, or hi, how you doing? No, he just comes out with that. I had this happen to me when I was eating at KFC, just sitting there eating my tasty chicken, and he sits right next to me and asks if I have ever dated a black guy. I haven't. From a very small, very white town, there were 2 black males in my grade and one of them was gay. He then asks me if I want to. That is just the worst way to ask someone out ever. I once had a guy who tried to force me to smoke a cigarette, and his reasoning was, "You're really cute and I think it's hot when cute girls smoke." Yay, no thanks. When I was a senior in high school, this freshman had a big crush on me. He was a little socially awkward, and one day he texted me and told me he got his allowance from his mom and he wanted to take me on a date to Hot Topic. I politely declined. The second one is kind of sweet. Not a lady, and my friend. Not me, but nonetheless. After coming in the door one Saturday night for a natch spiel at our place, my friend was standing next to a girl we knew slightly that first slipped her arm around his shoulder, and as we said hi to them and invited them in, she slipped her hand down the rear of his pants. I noticed something was amiss when his face contorted slightly, leaned over and saw her with a sneaky finger up his butt, and yes, this was in the flirting stage. They had not otherwise done anything intimate or talked about anything like that. TLDR. Sneaky finger up butt. That TLDR. Force me to read the entire post. I didn't expect the girl to do the sneaky finger. I expected it to be the other way around. Using that pickup artist crap, where they try insulting you to make you feel lonely and desperate to go home with them. I ended up screaming at him to tell the entire bar how much he weighs. I may have been intoxicated. You must be really beautiful. I saw something about negate and googled it. Apparently, you only use a negative line on a really beautiful girl as she'll be confident enough not to be affected by it, but it can backfire if she's having a bad day. I'm so glad this kind of advice wasn't available when I was impressionable. Having a normal conversation when a guy suddenly hits on a topic and starts explaining it to you. I once had a guy explain the internet to me for a really long time. He explained what pop-up ads were and how to torrent things. It actually happens quite often that guys will try to show how smart they are to flirt, but it can get condescending really fast. I don't think that's on purpose. Some people just get really into different topics and get excited when they have an opportunity to talk about them. That guy probably didn't get many opportunities to share his pop-up ad knowledge. I work at CVS and this gentleman was buying 2 pregnancy tests, condoms and beer. He proceeded to ask me if I am single and if I wanna chill. I did not want to chill. I really hate when guys put their hands on you before you've spoken, said hello, made eye contact or started dancing with them. Like when you're dancing randomly and they put their hands on your waist or try and pull you away from your friends from behind. When that happens, I normally turn around and look at them and shake my head or put my hands up and smile nicely, but make it obvious that the answer is no. Last time I put my hands up and shook my head, the guy grabbed my hand around the wrist and pulled me against him. As far as I'm concerned, you're getting into assault territory in that case, or at least invading personal space. Luckily I was with mostly male co-workers and one rescued me. TLDR. If a girl throws up her hands and shakes her head at you, you're probably being a douche and should back off. Did you just fart? Because you just blew me away. I'm a guy and my friend used that line to pick up a girl. It actually worked at. My god, your friend might just be Jesus. I was once at the club as a DD with my friends. I was dancing a little, but mostly I was keeping a watch on them because the DD is always in charge of deciding when to leave, when they had too much, etc. A woman came up to me and yelled, "My friend wants to dance with you and buy you a drink." She pointed over to a guy and he sheepishly waved. I politely declined and informed them that I was the DD. Also, my wedding ring. The woman scoffed at me and pressured me further. I still said no. The guy walked up at this point and seemed frustrated. "What's the big deal? It's just one drink. So what if you're married, etc." I had enough and just walked away. TLDR. Guy gets girl to ask me to dance and buy me a drink for him. They both laughed in my face and continued to pressure me even after I said number. Translation: crap, I only brought the one roofie and now it's gone to waste. Some random guy came up to me and said, "You're so cute. Like a little girl within a kitten." I Scooby-Dooed out of there. I once went on a date with a guy who tried to teach me how to play Magic: The Gathering while we were eating lunch. I have nothing against the game, and it might have been a fun conversation if he had been witty and silly or something. But instead he actually takes a giant deck out of his pocket and starts trying to play it with me. I gave it a shot because I wanted to be a good sport, but I really suck at card games, so I was bored. I tried to subtly change the subject, but he was like, "No, you're getting distracted. You need to focus if you want to learn how to do this." This was a first date. Guess his mom never taught him to never whip his deck out on the first date. Doesn't matter how big it is. He sent a text out of nowhere that said something like, "I want to rip your clothes off, throw you on the bed, and frick you until you make my back bleed and the sheets are soaked with your CM." I was young then, so I just handed the phone to my mom, who threatened to call the cops. Same kid had been making a lot of inappropriate comments and generally being a creeper. I'm 26, and I would still hand that crap off to my mom. That woman is a force of nature when she's angry. Having her tell off a creeper would have been amazing. I knew a guy in college who'd try to pick up girls after parties by telling them, "You can spend the night at my place, but just to warn you, I sleep naked." It worked for him. Twice. I'm pretty sure after college parties, you could scream gibberish outside and it would work at least once. Following me around the building at work. Sure, the opening line, "Has anyone ever told you how pretty you are?" was nice, but following me and demanding my number wasn't. It was kinda scary. I work at Victoria's Secret and a guy kept asking me what I wanted so he could buy it for me and I could wear it for him. Security escorted him out of the mall. Out with my girlfriends, a guy sits down at our table, turns to me and says, "So, how do you feel about chemical engineers?" He could have made it work, but he hadn't thought of anything else to say after dropping that stellar line. He could have at least come up with something to do with pumping fluids through his pipe. He asked my name while I was working on a Tuesday. On Wednesday he brought me hand-picked tulips at work. Then that Friday he asked me if I wanted to go with him to Milwaukee that weekend. I found out later that on my night off the morning shift found a whole bouquet of tulips in the parking lot. The reason this was really bad was because I am at least 15 years younger than him. I had a boyfriend at the time, and I was working third shift in a P store head shop. He was a regular customer who rented all the time. Rented P. I had a guy creepily give me the up and down stare, then without breaking eye contact, pull out a travel-sized bottle of Axe body spray and aerosol the bejesus out of himself. Oh god, I am way late to this thread, but I was at a truck stop and a guy came up to me and said as I was eating Taco Bell, "Girl, you're too pretty for Taco Bell." I would totally take that if he followed up by asking to take me to a dinner for good food. I had a guy come up to me in a club and shout, "OI, get your ming out. We have been best friends since that moment 3 years ago." About a year ago, in Barnes & Noble, dude who looked like Riff Raff from Rocky Horror After a H-bender passed me in the parking lot, then must have followed me into the store because 10 minutes later he got all up in my Kool-Aid with some creepy crap. After complimenting my coat, he asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, then said, "I know you're going to be something special. Something real special. Where do you live?" That was written beautifully. I'm a gay dude, but since gays have some of the worst ways of flirting, I thought I'd share this one even if it gets buried. Was in a bar. Guy came up and asked if I was 12. He then proceeded to rub my face and neck to check for facial hair. Then he asked if I had hair back there. Came up behind me, pervertedly put his arms around my waist and said, "You're so cute," in this fricked up voice, like the way you'd speak to an adorable puppy. And when I told him to move his arms or I'd remove them from his body, he again spoke in the stupid voice. Once a man walked to me on the street and begged for some coins. I said no. He then asked me if he could have my number instead. I have a friend who tried this at a bar last month. "Yo girl, I'm up pterodactyl," loud pterodactyl sounds and flaps arms. Girl talked to him for a whole 2 minutes after that. He probably could have talked for longer, but he is in a relationship and was just winning a bet. Some guy had his friend say to me, "You should let guy take you to dinner. His dad is rich, the kid still lived at home and his parents paid all his crap. Your dad's money equals your money. At a certain level of rich it is. If you tell me what startups you like, I'll have my company invest in them." I immediately turned and walked away. I live in SF, so investor types are prevalent. Another guy told me he was a PayPal founder, super wealthy and looking for a girl to spoil. His actual line: "I didn't tell him that my friend who actually works at PayPal was meeting me for drinks." Introducing the two was entertaining. Sadly, I did not get spoiled by a PayPal founder. Men of San Francisco, why must you be such douchebags? As a man from San Francisco, these are so laughably bad it hurts. Also, I'm sorry. We were talking about tattoos and he said he had one. Didn't even ask to see it. Regardless, he proceeded to flip out his dong. And voila, tattoo. That had a Justin Bieber worthy cringy quote. You really need to tell us what the quote was. I was at a bar with a friend and one of her friends and that guy's friends. I didn't know the friend of a friend and my friend didn't know his friends beforehand. I walk up to introduce myself to one guy and he grabs my outstretched hand and pulls me into a very fast-paced waltz kind of thing and starts spinning me around and dipping me, but he's moving so fast I can't even catch up with what's going on. He then proceeds to pick me up. Picking me up really freaks me out unless I am like prepared for it. And usually even then it freaks me out. When I tell him being picked up makes me anxious, he proceeds to immediately pick me up again. I later discover that caused my wallet to fall out of my pocket. I finally get away from him and get back to my friend and he swoops up behind me, picks me up again in the swept off your feet kind of way, and proceeds to walk away with me while saying something about walking out of the bar with me. He then places me in a corner with him and between me and everyone else and starts trying to force a conversation that I am obviously very uncomfortable with. Finally, I catch my friend's eye and she swoops over to get me out of there. On top of that, I ended up getting into a conversation with the friend's friend who also started hitting on me that night. When I told that guy that the first guy freaked me out when he picked me up, that guy also picked me up. TLDR. If a girl tells you something freaks them out or makes them anxious, don't do it. Adds new meaning to the phrase "I picked up a girl in the bar the other night." I was about 11 and was playing with a Nerf ball in the street with my cousin. Some mentally challenged guy my cousin knew came out to join us. This dude was like 17 or so. He kept flirting with me, trying to get me to go to his house with him. I kept telling him no. He kept complimenting me and stepping closer to me slowly till I was backed against a fence, and he wouldn't stop. So I jabbed him in the eyes with my fingers and ran away. From that moment on I have not been at all receptive to people flirting with me. This probably isn't the worst, but it's the most common for me, so it annoys me the most. Guys who come up and bother me while I'm clearly not interested, listening to my iPod, texting, reading, etc. and then having nothing to say. If you're going to interrupt me, you better have a freaking game plan, because if you just come say hi and then expect me to be so charmed that I'll strike up conversation, no, I'll just stare awkwardly and then probably lie to get away. Also, catcalling and or putting your hands up my dress at a club are both extremely ineffective methods to get at me and will fail 100% of the time, and also sorta ruin my day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.